Welcome back, people, to Bun and Cheese Reviews. This is a new week for cartoons. This is my top 5 westernized cartoons in the 2000s. So, these cartoons I watched even more than the 90s cartoons. Because I was between the ages of, let me do the math, 4 and 14 at the times. It would help if I could do my math, 6 and 16 at the time that these cartoons came out. Alright, so first of all, I want to say honourable mentions to Mucha Lucha and the Cramp Twins. Both were really good, funny shows, but just about didn't make the list on here. Also, want to reiterate, no DC, no Marvel stuff, and no comic related stuff on this list. So, let's waste no time and get straight into the list. Number 5, The Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy. Okay, so let me keep it real with you. When I first came across this cartoon while channel surfing, my first thoughts were, what is this stupidness? The main character, Billy, was slow-witted and spoke in an annoying voice and was constantly digging out his nose. And his best friend, Mandy, wasn't that much more likeable. So I bet you're wondering, Lamar, why the hell is this on this list and you've all just been ripping into it since the beginning? Well, after giving it a few more tries, it started to grow on me. And this is mostly because of the third member of the group, the Grim Reaper. His personality what stole the show for me, with him initially wanting to kill the kids for enslaving him, but eventually growing a care for them. He was voiced by Greg Eagles, who perfected the nucleus of the character with a Jamaican accent that quite frankly didn't make much sense, but made it all more funny. As I hinted earlier, death being implied and actually executed was a part of this show, which is something that was extremely rare for cartoons in the West. But it only made sense as it involved the Grim Reaper at the centre stage of every plot point. So I commend them for having the balls to actually go through with this, but the lack of cohesive story between episodes and not so likeable title characters is what puts it last on my list. Number 4, Codename Kids Next Door. Okay, so back to back, let me keep it real again. Technically, this is cheating because K&D, I'll abbreviate it from now on, officially aired its pilots in 1998. But I have already finished the script for the 90s videos, but I feel like it would be unfair to take any of those cartoons off for this one. And same for not putting K&D in this video, so here we are. The actual series started a while after the pilots aired, with season 1 beginning in 2002. And it was within these next few years I remember watching it for the first time. Now, I must add that I've never been a fan of spy stuff like Men in Black or James Bond. Spy Kids was the only thing I liked of that nature back in the day, but this show really did change that for me. I was addicted as soon as I watched it, loving the concept of a group of children spies operating from a tree house. I used to wish they never turned 13 so they could be spies for the rest of their days. The personalities and character designs of the main characters were all likeable, with all of them being intelligent and having personal traits from being laid back to irrational between the group. The diversity in the group was also to be praised, with all types of races and genders being heavily involved. But I can't help but feel for number 1, because you know stress is getting to you when you're going bald at the bright old age of 10. Number 3, Ben 10. The concept of Ben 10 fit everything that interested me as a kid. A young boy with a cool gadget that is able to change his DNA into alien DNA. Even saying that now gets me hyped. The execution was also extremely well done too, with the design and animation on point for all the transformations. I still remember my favourite aliens today being XLR8, Heat Blast, Diamondback and Wild Mutt, with the latter alien having, in my opinion, the most interesting weakness of them all, with his senses being a hindrance on many different occasions. The whole cast was extremely likeable, with Ben being voiced by, again, like I said last week, the legendary Tara Strong. This woman is something special. She expertly performs a believable 10-year-old boy who is cocky, intelligent and extremely kind-hearted. She is backed by Megan Smith, who portrays his cousin Gwen, and unlike Mandy from Grim Adventures, is a great character that bounces off the main well and pranks him well. And then you have one of the most underrated antagonists in cartoon history, if you ask me, in Kevin Levin. A complete foil to Ben being somebody that only wants to use his power for self-gain, and after a tragic accident blames Ben for his misfortune and swears with revenge. And I need to add, he's actually the second main villain of the series, with Axe being a solid first. I just prefer Kevin 11. I feel like the show hasn't captured the magic of the first series since it ended in 2008, or maybe that's just my nostalgia kicking in. Number 2, The Fairly Odd Parents. Again, this cartoon revolved around a concept that interests me, and I think every other young child out there too. A 10-year-old boy that's given fairly godparents that can grant any wish he desires. You're probably going to get sick of hearing her name, but Tara Strong portrays Timmy, the main protagonist. But in this show, I actually feel like she was outshone for once by Darren Norris as Cosmo. He perfectly performs the dim-witted half of the godparents, often doing ridiculous things that makes wishes worse and or funnier for the watcher. Susan Blakesley also does a very good job as Cosmo's wife Wanda, constantly advising him and Timmy not to go through with their stupid ideas or wishes, through her loving and caring nature. They definitely bounced off each other well. Looking back, they actually remind me of a live-action TV couple, Lucius and Cookie from Fox's Empire, just more toned down for kids, of course. What I love most about the series is how well it shows the repercussions of wishes, and how being able to get everything you want as a prepubescent 10-year-old is not always a good thing. Showcasing yet another cartoon from back in the day that helps teach children life lessons, all while staying incredibly funny and entertaining. Number 1, Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends. This cartoon was undoubtedly the most impressive of the 2000 era, and this was for various reasons. But first I'll get into its animation design, which I was initially a little put off by watching it because the style wasn't like anything else at the time. But after my research for this video, I found out that it's meant to evoke the late 60s period of trippy poster designs. And now that I know that, I can totally see the contrast. Mac is the protagonist, who is voiced by the talented Sean Marquette, who portrays the role of a very smart young boy perfectly. And unlike nearly every other protagonist on this list, he isn't the everyday mischievous boy, just one with common sense and a vivid imagination. This vivid imagination of his created Blue, his imaginary friend, that easily steals the show with all his antics that just come from being narcissistic. But he does apologise for his actions, showing he's a real good dude. I mean, good blob at heart. The show teaches children that imagination is important and it's something that shouldn't ever be abandoned, with other imaginary friends at the house coming from a time of need in a child's life. Eduardo was created to protect Nina in a dangerous neighbourhood, and even just saying those words makes me emotional and think about how that same sort of thing must happen in the real world. One of my favourite sayings has always been, art imitates life, and that is exactly what this show is. So that is my list of my 2000s cartoons, and that last one was very emotional to write when I was doing my research, and I realised stuff that you don't realise as a kid. So that's why Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends is number 1. I've always told everybody I speak to it is the best cartoon of that era. So that is that, and I will see you next week for another cartoon show, another cartoon review. That might be the last one, might not be. I might push it to end in March, and then we've got a brand new month in April with a brand new topic. I haven't decided that yet. So have a good week, rest of the weekend, until next time.